Well, I hope you were able to be at church on Sunday. As you know, it was Pentecost Sunday. Those of you that were there know that. And as I shared on Sunday morning, that's not necessarily one of the Sundays on the liturgical calendar that we as Baptists have historically celebrated. But it is one worth celebrating, and I'm grateful that we had the chance to do that yesterday. And we read the passage, Acts 2, that I'm asking you to read this week, that just tells the story of what happened on that particular day in the life of the followers of Jesus. On that day, the Spirit of God fell, and some people say, well, that's the church's birthday. I think the way I would put it is that the new covenant people of God really came into being that day, and they were empowered by the Spirit of God. And the miracle at Pentecost was when the Spirit of God descended on these believers, they began to speak in languages they'd never been trained in. And that's something that I think maybe is kind of, we don't give it a whole lot of thought today, but that's just an incredible miracle. I can't imagine what that was like for those disciples, because they knew that they didn't know how to speak all these languages. They knew there were people in Jerusalem that they couldn't communicate with unless they spoke Aramaic. And so just imagine how incredible that must have been. And then to see, after Jesus being crucified and only a handful of people really in the grand scheme of things really being willing to follow Jesus, just in one day, one sermon, and really the sharing the gospel by all the believers. It wasn't only Peter. I mean, Peter preached the sermon, but the rest of them were teaching and preaching because they were using these different languages. 3,000 people made the decision that one day to follow Christ and were baptized. So what an incredible outpouring of the Spirit of God. So this week in our readings, we're going to just kind of follow the story and see what happened to these early believers in Jerusalem. And what we're going to encounter is a group of Spirit-filled people, anointed by the Spirit of God. And we're going to notice that they're not necessarily influential people, but they're powerful people. And really that's what I'd like for all of us to just focus in on this week, is what happens to us when the Spirit of God comes upon us, or the Spirit of God indwells us. It seems to me that there's power that just shows up in our lives because the Spirit of God is in us. But that power is there to serve the interests of the kingdom. I think sometimes we, particularly in modern Christianity, we want to call upon the power of God or the power of the Spirit, but many times we want to call upon that power to serve our interests and to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And what I sense as I'm reading the text, and particularly as you go all the way through the sermon that Stephen preaches in his martyrdom, you know, the power of God was resting on these people to accomplish the things of God. So I don't think that's really changed. So as we read together this week, let's reflect on the miracle of Pentecost, and let's just pay attention as we read the text and see what happens when people are filled by the Spirit, and what it means to live in this age of the Spirit as we're now in those last days, as Peter said. And I hope that you and I together will be humble, and we'll recognize that the Spirit of God is in us, yes, and the power of God is available to us, absolutely. And that power is available to us as God is working through us to accomplish the things that will serve His interests and will serve His kingdom. So what a great day, Sunday, following on the heels of our children and youth camps. It was incredible. It was an awesome time. And I hope that the energy that we felt on Sunday and just the sense of being in the presence of God is going to carry us on through the rest of this summer and lead us into the direction that God would have us to go in the fall. So I'm praying for a great summer for you, and I trust that God will use this time to refresh you, to empower you, and maybe to reorient you as He has me in the direction that He would have all of us to go. So I love you, and God bless you.